kind of kit. And we also have shoe covers and sterilized rubber surgical gloves, protective face masks, disposable protective clothing, human body temperature measurement system. And this, for us, indicates a contribution to a kind of commodity that's highly needed inside the department, particularly as we deal with the issue of COVID-19. We do want to express our gratitude to the People's Republic of China for the continued support and assistance that they've given us. I may as well just indicate that there has been quite a lot of support that we have received from the People's Republic of China, particularly the area of technical support. In this case, on the 3rd of April, we actually had a whole webinar or a conversation between the heads of departments, the provincial MECs and heads of departments, and the National Health, as well as our Ministerial Advisory Committee. We were all taken through the experiences of China, where they deployed 12 experts to take us through the discussion of how they went about managing the COVID-19 in China. We found this to be very, very valuable, and we also found that this was helpful as it came as a follow-up to another similar webinar where our 500 people who had participated on the 27th of March, also organized by the WHO. And in this case, most of the ministers of health in the whole world participated. And what was most interesting for us was the presentation about how China had dealt with the problem. Of course, there was also contribution or presentation from other countries such as South Korea, Japan, and Singapore. So we are therefore grateful for this, and we are looking forward to additional support in a number of ways. As we speak right now, we're working very closely with the private sector, looking at the entire stock of our requirements in the country, and we're working very closely to make sure that such is expedited. And I want to say, therefore, thank you to even our Department of International Relations, Minister Pando and the whole department, for facilitating quite a lot of movement of our goods coming from China into South Africa. Having said so, I'd like to then say that we just need to indicate for today the numbers in terms of our tests that are going on a day-to-day basis, that our numbers have gone up to 2,415 positive cases for today. And this, we believe, we're now seeing a lot more of the testing that's coming from the public sector. We've got tests, we've got teams that are out there screening our communities and then referring more and more people for testing. And we believe that this is the way that South Africa will be able to deal with this pandemic, by sending out a lot of teams to identify people who might be at risk, that need to be tested even before they land in the hospital. We'd like to deal with it that way so that we can reduce the numbers of people who can end up landing up in the hospital and overwhelming our system. But also, once they are found, they'll both be treated, and then the contacts will be quarantined, because we really want to bring their infection cycle to a dead end so that we don't continue the infection amongst those that we've already identified as such. So I'll just give you a quick run on the provincial numbers, just to say at this point the total number of tests that have been done is now around 87,000, which for us is a continuous increase, which for us it's important that we must continue to test more and more people. So from Gauteng, the number is now at 909. For Western Cape, the total now is at 643. For KwaZulu-Natal, number is 489. For the Eastern Cape, the number has gone up to 174, and Free State number is 98, Limpopo 24, Mpumalanga 22, Northwest 22, Northern Cape 16, and then we've still got some who are still trying to allocate, and those are around 18. That is just to make sure that we've got the correct information, as it were. Well, those are all that we're going to be announcing at this point, but just to say that we're very sensitive about protection of our professionals, and therefore this donation is going to contribute quite significantly in ensuring that we are able to get our staff protected against this infection, because they're in the forefront of the infection. So with that, we would like to say that once again, we do want to indicate our appreciation to the People's Republic of China for their support and continuous assistance in a number of areas. And again, once again, I want to say thank you to Minister Pando for being able to be with us here as well, because, of course, that's a portfolio that assists us to link up with the Chinese and other governments. So at that level, I'd like to say thank you and hand over, Minister, to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mkhize, the Minister of Health, my colleague, Dr. Pasa, the Deputy Minister of Health, and of course, His Excellency, the Chargé d'Affaires of the People's Republic of China, Mr. Li Nan. Very glad, Excellency, that you and your colleagues from the embassy are here with us. As has already been said, we are brought here by COVID-19, which has caused all of us to gather in unusual ways at unusual spaces. COVID-19 has now reached most corners of the globe, with over 180 countries affected. And our purpose today, as Minister Mkhize has said, is to show our deep appreciation to the government of the People's Republic of China and the people of China for the medical supplies which have been donated to the Republic of South Africa. We have long-standing diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China. We celebrated our 20th anniversary of such relations in 2018. We've had excellent relationships between our leaders, with 2 state visits between the 2 countries in 2018. This illustrates the depth of the relations that exist between our countries, particularly at the level of our heads of state. Our President, President Ramaphosa, has been in more than 2 conversations with His Excellency, President Xi Jinping, who had given an undertaking that China would support not only South Africa, but the entire African continent in combating this pandemic and ensuring that we lessen the impact of COVID-19 on the continent. One of the objectives of our foreign policy is to ensure that we promote and achieve the key priorities of Agenda 2063 of the African Union, through ensuring that we promote the economic development of our continent. We're very pleased that the People's Republic of China, through its government, has declared its support very openly for Agenda 2063, and has done this through its African initiative, the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation. This commitment to Africa was reflected in the assistance that was provided to our continent in combating another medical emergency, namely the deadly Ebola outbreak in West Africa in 2014. China took decisive action at that time and initiated, as it has done now, multiple rounds of aid, which led to the largest and longest humanitarian and health aid initiative in China's history. By the first half of 2015, China's assistance for the fight against Ebola in Africa had manifested itself in the principles of sincerity, real results, affinity, and good faith. These guided China's policy on Africa and China's view of global responsibility and security. And today, China is continuing this humanitarian effort to Africa by donating the medical supplies that have been referred to by Minister Mkhize, and is doing so not only to South Africa, but to a number of African countries. The efforts of the government of China are complemented by efforts of persons such as Mr. Jack Ma, the CEO of the Chinese company Alibaba, who has donated medical supplies through the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to the member states of the AU. China continues to provide support to the continent in fighting the virus through collaboration in science, in technology, with our government and governments all over the world. Truly, China has exhibited it's only together that we can stop this virus. On the 2nd of February this year, the Acting Director General of the Department of Health, Dr. Pillay, and the former Chinese ambassador, Ambassador Lin Songtiang, together presided over the handing over ceremony of South African manufacturer UMask's donation of 20,000 masks to support China in its fight against the COVID-19 virus. Well, a great deal of change has occurred in those 2.5 months. The virus has spread remarkably quickly, and now we as South Africa are gratefully accepting medical supplies, so the donation shoe has changed to the other foot. Today we accept this donation with sincere appreciation. These items are going to assist not only our medical staff, who are at the forefront of the fight against the virus, but also those support staff who provide assistance, such as security personnel, drivers, communications workers, and a number of others at the forefront in combating the pandemic. I would like to use this opportunity to also thank other Chinese institutions and companies which have also made a contribution of medical supplies to South Africa, and I wish to refer to them by name. The Bank of China Limited, Johannesburg branch, Alibaba, that I've already mentioned, a multinational company, the Chinese community in South Africa, the telecommunications giant, Huawei, Industrial Commercial Bank of China Limited, through their Africa Representative Office, the China Construction Bank, Johannesburg branch, and Landpack, the Earth Compaction Company. All these companies have made contributions to South Africa. Most of the medical supplies we expect to be donated are currently being assembled in Shanghai for collection by a chartered South African aircraft. The South African government is thankful for the high degree of cooperation from the Chinese authorities in facilitating the various procedures for the successful chartered flight, and it is estimated that the flight with these supplies will arrive in South Africa during the course of this week. Never before have I had to deal with chartered flights as I've had to do in the past 3 weeks. In closing, I wish to emphasize the strong and solid relations with the People's Republic of China. I know that there's been concern about allegations of discrimination against Africans in China. The Chinese government has addressed these matters directly and continues to do so. And I think in this moment, what we want to do is thank both the government, the private companies, and the large numbers of people in China concerned about COVID-19 for this excellent donation to South Africa today. So Minister Mkhize, I join you in expressing appreciation to His Excellency, the Chargé, And we say, in conclusion, ra leboga. Re itumetse thata.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ajay.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I think now we'll invite Mr. Nguyen to give a remarks.
Thank you, Director of Ceremony. And Honorable Dr. Naledi Pandor, Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. Honorable Dr. Tsveri Mkesi, Minister of Health of the Republic of South Africa. And dear friends, and friends from the media, and also ladies and gentlemen, let me also say Kaleboha, that is thank you, and also Tumela. I think I should greet you like that. Saubon. Good afternoon. So I'm very glad to attend today's handover ceremony on medical supplies donated by the Chinese government to the Republic of South Africa. This batch of medical supplies arrived in South Africa just 5 days after President Xi Jinping's telephone conversation with President Cyril Ramaphosa, which represents an important concrete step to implement the consensus reached by the two heads of state and fully demonstrate the comprehensive strategic partnership and the special comrade plus brother friendship between China and South Africa. As we know, since the outbreak of COVID-19, under the strong leadership of President Xi Jinping, China has taken the most comprehensive, stringent, most thorough prevention and control measures to combat this epidemic, which has paid off tremendously. The lockdown of the city of Wuhan now has been lifted since last Wednesday, and the industrial production and people's life is gradually back to normal. So after paying a heavy price, China has made huge sacrifices, bought precious time for other countries, and thus made great contributions to the global fight against this virus. China and Africa have always been a community with a shared future. Since the COVID-19 broke out, China and Africa have been fighting as one to brave the difficulties and challenges brought by the pandemic. We would like to express our gratitude to the South African government and people for always standing firmly together with us, with China in the testing times. President Ramaphosa twice wrote to President Xi Jinping to express condolences and has voiced his firm support to China's efforts to contain the epidemic on many occasions. And also Honorable Minister Pandor and Honorable Minister Mukherjee have also demonstrated their solid support to China on many occasions. So the Standard Bank of South Africa, Sun International Group, UMAS Company, which is the private company, also, and other South African enterprises generously donated cash and kind to support China's anti-epidemic efforts, despite the impact suffered by themselves from the COVID-19. The Chinese government and people will never forget their friendship and solidarity. And now we think it's time for China to reciprocate the kindness, generosity granted to us. So since the COVID-19 is spreading rapidly in Africa, China fully shares the same feelings as our African friends and brothers. Despite the continuous fighting against the epidemic at home, China has mobilized resources from all parties, coordinated efforts across the spectrum to provide strong assistance and support to South Africa and other African countries through both governmental and non-governmental channels. just as the Honorable Minister Pandra mentioned, up to now, the Chinese, ever since the outbreak of COVID-19, the Chinese government has been continuous providing assistance to 54 African countries, including some countries who has not established diplomatic ties with us. And we will surely continue to do so. So today's shipment is the second batch of anti-epidemic medical supplies provided by the Chinese government to South Africa, including 11,000 medical N95 masks, 50,000 medical surgical masks, 3,000 sets of medical protective suits, 500 portable infrared thermometers, 3,000 goggles, 11,000 pairs of surgical gloves, and 11,000 pairs of medical shoe covers. A third and larger shipment of medical supplies from the Chinese government to South Africa is also under preparation. I can assure you that, Honorable Minister. According to the incomplete statistics, China's central government, local governments, and medical institutions have already provided South Africa with 7,550 nucleic acid reagents, 21,000 N95 masks, 190,000 disposable surgical masks, 3,500 sets of protective suits, 5,000 protective goggles, 31,000 pairs of gloves, and 11,000 shoe covers, and 700 portable infrared thermometers. Some of the medical supplies have been delivered, and others will soon arrive in South Africa in due time. They are underway. The Chinese embassy and enterprises in South Africa have also donated infrared thermometers to the South African government. The Chinese enterprises and communities in South Africa have already donated 3 million rand to the South African government. Recently, as Honorable Minister Pandra mentioned, Huawei South Africa, Bank of China, Johannesburg branch, International and Commercial Bank of China Africa office, China Construction Bank Johannesburg branch, and other Chinese enterprises have committed donations of around 1.3 million surgical masks, as well as many protective suits, goggles, ventilators, and other supplies to South Africa. The Chinese communities in South Africa will donate another 2 million masks. The Chinese embassy in South Africa has been working also closely with the South African Health Department and companies like NASPAS to facilitate their commercial procurement of anti-epidemic supplies from China and a quick delivery of the shipment to South Africa. So the 2 batches of the anti-epidemic supplies donated by China's Jack Ma Public Welfare Foundation and Alibaba Public Interest Foundation to African countries also include donations to South African government. They will provide extra anti-epidemic supplies to South Africa, including hundreds and thousands of masks, testing reagents, as well as protective suits and other PPEs, and also ventilators. The Chinese embassy has also encouraged some local Chinese enterprise in Durban to have urgently ordered mass production equipment from China to expand local production capability. And the factory has promised to donate all the masks produced recently to South Africa. And the provincial government and police of KwaZulu-Natal have already received 30,000 masks donated by this factory. We hope they will do more. So in addition to donating medical supplies, China has also shared its anti-epidemic experiences with South Africa without reservation. Not long ago, the Chinese embassy invited medical experts from Shanghai to hold a video conference with South African health officials and WHO representatives in Africa. to exchange and share experience in epidemic prevention and control, as Honorable Minister Mukasey just mentioned. The video conference turned out to be a great success. We have also provided the South African Department of Health with the novel coronavirus pneumonia prevention and control manual in a timely manner, and participated in the video conference on international diplomacy in the fight against COVID-19 organized by the South African Department of Science and Innovation to share the anti-epidemic experiences of the Chinese scientists. Although South Africa now is the country hardest hit by far by COVID-19 in Africa, but we are happy to see that under the strong leadership of President Ramaphosa, the South African government and the people have taken such decisive measures as the national lockdown to contain the rapid spread of the virus. We can see these measures are working. So, Honorable Ministers, you are assured of our strong support and solidarity with you. So, dear friends, virus knows no borders, no races. The only right choice for us right now is to uphold the vision of building a community of a shared future for mankind, strengthen international cooperation so as to jointly combat the common enemy facing humankind as one. China is ready to work with South Africa to step up cooperation in epidemic prevention and control. We strongly believe the spirit of Ubuntu is giving us more power and strength. By uniting together with solidarity, we shall win this battle and prevail. So I thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nan. I shall now invite our Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Pasha, to say a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Let me pass my greetings to our Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor, my colleague in the Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize, our host for this afternoon, Mayor Mpumi Mpofu, the Chief Executive of Axa. It's quite difficult not to say DG because we have known her to be DG for many years, different departments. Our charge d'affaires for the People's Republic of China, Mr. Li Nan, and his delegation. Our senior officials, DG for DERCO and other senior officials from health and other departments, the media present here, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor and privilege this afternoon to be given this opportunity to do the closing remarks on this very important occasion as we as South Africa, through international relations and health, are receiving this very important medical equipment and commodities from the People's Republic of China to help us in our fight against the COVID-19 virus. Let me thank the Department of Transport and the airports company specifically for availing this facility, but also for their role in making sure that the consignment actually can arrive, and also for future assistance in making sure that what has been mentioned here as future consignments will also safely arrive on our shores. We also acknowledge with gratitude, indeed, and respect the government and the people of China through their government of the People's Republic of China for the very important role that you are playing in the fight against this invisible enemy called COVID-19. We know that you are the first country to be affected by the virus, and we know that even now you are still dealing with fresh evidence and prevalence of the virus. but at the same time, you have seen it necessary to assist us, to share resources with us, as we are still in the early stages of this pandemic. The medical equipment and the commodities received come at the right time when our country is experiencing a gradual increase, as already announced by Minister Mkhize earlier on today. And therefore, this equipment couldn't have come at a more appropriate time for us in terms of dealing with this challenge. Let me take this opportunity also to thank Minister Pando and her department for the excellent work they've been doing in supporting us so that we could be able to rise to the occasion as we deal with this challenge through all the diplomatic assistance from her office and also from the department. And let me also, at this stage, also pass an appreciation to my colleague, Minister Mkhize, appreciating his leadership, which he has demonstrated during this difficult time when our country is really feeling the effects of this pandemic. We commend him and our entire health team. Together with, of course, we must also mention that it's not only the national level that we are pulling together to deal with this challenge, but also colleagues in the provinces, the MECs and the heads of department and other entities of government, National Health Laboratory Service, Medical Research Council, and various other of our entities, without whom we would not be able to confront this very deadly enemy. We are aware that we still have a long way to go. We are just in the early beginnings of this long marathon, because this is not a sprint, but it is a marathon, and we therefore appreciate all the cooperation from our colleagues from provinces and other entities. Let me also express our gratitude to you, the media houses, who are here today, but also not only today, but who have been partners in us disseminating the message about how to prevent the spread of this COVID-19, how to make sure that we can look after ourselves through social distancing, hygiene, washing our hands, educating the public, because alone as government we would not be able to pass this message to our population without you. And because of your support and cooperation, I think we are having an upper hand against fake news. We see now and then the re-emergence of fake news, but with your help, we have been able to prevail over the fake news. Let me, as I end, just encourage everyone in our society, in our country, to continue to observe all the advice from the WHO, from ourselves as a health department and government led by our President Ramaphosa, such as social distancing, regular washing of hands, sanitizing, and all these other measures, because it's only when we pull together in the prevention and combating of this virus that we will prevail as a nation. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Colleagues, this brings us to the end of this briefing. But I must say, on the message of the Honorable Minister, we were not going to have a question and answer session, but we are allowed to have just one round of 4 questions. I think it's few media houses that are here, so we can be able to divide ourselves. That's 4 questions, that's one round. I'll count as 1. Let's do it by show of hands. I've got 1, 2.
They're not compulsory.
2 is fine.
2 is fine.
I think let's just then proceed, Madam.
Okay, my name is Diana Mogo from Newsroom Africa. My question goes to you, Minister Pando. While the arrival of the PPE is a sign of goodwill from the Chinese government, have the allegations of discrimination against Africans at all caused tension between the two governments? But also, we know that DERCO's asked for, the Chinese government to investigate. Has there been any preliminary kind of information that's been fed back to the South African government, particularly about South Africans who may still be in China?
Take another question. Yes.
Hi, Jonas from ENCA. Minister Mkhize, I have one question for you. When will we be seeing more of these medical goods coming from China? Is it anytime soon? And then Minister Pandor, if you could perhaps give us an update on any repatriation flights that we will be seeing. A number of South Africans are crying out and they just want some indication if they will be helped.
Next, the third question.
That was it, too.
I think that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Right, so if I can respond. Firstly, no, there are no tensions between South Africa and China. The matters that have been drawn to our attention were not directed in terms of accusation at the government of the People's Republic of China. It was one particular region, Guangzhou, that we've had complaints about, and we've actually been heartened by the reaction of the government of China at the national level, from the Foreign Ministry, Minister Wang Yi, as well as the Vice Minister, who actually was present in Addis Ababa and had a meeting with the AU Commission Chair, and has assured us that action has already begun to be taken, and that where there have been breaches, these are going to be addressed. And we've been assured that we believe that we can accept the commitment of the government of the People's Republic of China, and we know that they have the ability to address such concerns. And so we will be receiving ongoing reports from our ambassador in Addis Ababa, because it's at that level where the interaction is happening. And we will rely on the chair, Faki Mohammed, to keep us informed. I don't believe that there's been any complaint directed to my office of a South African. I have seen on the media, I think it was your channel and others, where one South African was speaking of their experiences, and it appears to be common across the board. And we appeal and call on the People's Republic of China to ensure that any of these inadequacies are addressed, and if there's a need for further education about China's support for non-discrimination and social cohesion, this should occur speedily. On repatriation, this is ongoing. I don't have the numbers with respect to today. I know there's some flights that should be arriving tonight, and there'll be more arriving tomorrow. We have some repatriation from Brussels in Belgium, and that would involve persons from different European countries who would then gather at one site, because we're trying to address this in as cost-effective and efficient a manner as possible. We've had arrivals from Brazil. Those arrivals are in quarantine. As you know, that's the condition of return, and screening on a fairly comprehensive basis. So this is ongoing. We continue to be challenged by some of our citizens who are in the United States, where we haven't as yet developed a strategy for repatriation. So US, I think, is an issue, as is Thailand. We have a number of citizens in Bali and Bangkok, and we are looking at what we can do with respect to them. And then I know in Peru, there are several citizens. The difficulty there has been they're not in the capital, Lima. So it's not easy to gather them, and some of them are in towns that are over 5 hours drive on ground transport from Lima. The country is in lockdown, and so they're not happy to have road-based movement. And so I think the governments must just keep talking to each other to ensure that we are able to successfully repatriate. But I think all congratulations to the Transport Department, to the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, especially its consular section, and to our colleagues in health who have all formed a very good, comprehensive response to the need to repatriate our citizens.
Well, thank you. The issue around the goods coming from China, the goods we are coming to receive today have actually been delivered. They are in the process of being cleared. It's just that because of the security arrangements, the media can't go and see them. But I'm told that an arrangement was made that we could actually get the pictures of those of that consignment available, I think, through GCIS. Yes, and so you will be able to get confirmation that, in fact, whilst we don't show you any mask here, we've got them loaded behind us here. And we can just say to you, we're very grateful for that. That is in relation to this particular consignment. We've received several consignments from China, but there's the one that's been raised around the Jack Ma donation. And then we also have donations that were bought by South African companies such as Mtsepe Foundation and part of the Solidarity Fund. Some of that was received last week, and another consignment came through last Tuesday. Another one came through on Saturday. These now have been ordered through the Solidarity Fund. There's another one that is expected this week, I think another one on Thursday. And so all in all, there has been no hitches with the consignments that are coming from China, be they donations, be they purchases through the Solidarity Fund. In fact, there is quite a lot of forward orders that have been put through to China, to various suppliers. My estimation is that on what is on order, we're close to 800 million rand that is actually going to be delivered in the next couple of weeks. And we have said as well that the consignment of what we have today and what we are going to be receiving up until the end of the week, if delivered as expected, should be able to give us stocks that should last us between 6 and 8 weeks, which means when we talk about personal protective equipment, we will have adequate stocks to be able to respond and protect our health workers who are in the forefront of the fight against COVID-19. And therefore, we believe that for the next 6 to 8 weeks, we should be in a good position in relation to protective gear. And in the process, some of the orders that are going to be taken forward are going to take us through to look at the months after that, which means we're now looking much beyond the 6 to 8 weeks period. And that period, again, we believe that there's good enough cooperation amongst government and private sector to be able to deal with that and make sure that we get the kind of supplies that we need. In fact, if I may just well say, we have, through the regulations, we've actually opened up a database where we basically look at the entire stock that is available in the country, which allows government the opportunity to specify if there's need to augment the stocks on government side. We will know, because looking at the dashboard, we know what is there. So there shouldn't be a problem at all at that level. And so the work that's been done, particularly through DERCO, the Chinese Embassy, and the People's Republic of China, together with the Department of Health, has ensured that we're going to have a free flow of the movement of the very essential commodities which we need for dealing with the COVID-19. So I hope that clarifies the situation. But we really believe that there's a lot of cooperation that's really making supplies a little bit more easier than was originally anticipated. Thank you.
Colleagues, thank you very much, and this brings us to the end of the whole committee. And thank you to the ministers, Deputy Minister, CEO, Mr. Nan, DG of International Relations, and the Chief Director, Ambassador Simano. I'm sorry I didn't recognize you earlier on, but we thank you also for being here. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to leave that press conference that's taking place, and that was the Minister of Health, Dr. Zwelinki's at the OR Tambo International Airport, along with DIRCO's Minister Naledi Pandor, where the Chinese government has been handing over personal protective equipment to the South African Health Department, expressing gratitude and appreciation to the People's Republic of China for their kind donation. Also appreciating the exchange of expertise and learning from the Chinese experience with COVID-19. So also the Minister gave us an opportunity to listen to the recent numbers of the cases for COVID-19, and the total number of positive cases in South Africa is 2,415 positive cases, and this has come through a lot of the testing that's been ramped up, and this, he says, will help us deal more effectively with the virus. The total tests done so far, 87,000 across the country, and by province, the breakdown is Gauteng, 909 positive cases, Western Cape, 643, KwaZulu-Natal, 489, Eastern Cape, 174, the Free State, 98, Limpopo, 24, Mpumalanga, 22, the Northwest, 22, and the Northern Cape, 16, and 18 unallocated at this stage. And the DIRCO Minister Naledi Pandor also thanked China's for their donation of medical supplies, as she explained that the long-standing and depth of relations between China and South Africa continue, and she spoke about the conversations the President had with President Xi Jinping, where China has committed itself to assist Africa with the current COVID-19 pandemic. We'll have more for you on this a little bit later on the program. You're watching SA Today on the SABC News.